So there's no denying that the first introduction you make to your new team is a big deal. Now, could it shape your team's impression of you? Absolutely. Could you say something so bad that you'll never be able to recover from it? Possibly, but I've got some good news for you, okay? By watching this video today, your chances of screwing this up in a career-defining way will drop to basically zero. And you'll see that the impression that most people think they need to make as a new manager, which is, sounding confident or looking flawless or charming everybody with your charisma, is completely wrong. And that's because the stuff that actually matters is almost always ignored, which is why in this video, I'm dishing out some real talk with you about why nailing your introduction has nothing to do with confidence or communication skills. What you actually need to do in order to make an awesome first impression, and just a powerful reframe for you that will take a ton of pressure off so that it will seem way less scary. But before we dive in, just a quick note to anyone who might be sitting here wondering whether this is still applicable to them, because maybe you fall into the bucket of having to introduce yourself in a different way because your team already knows you, meaning they were your peers pre-promotion. So if you fall into that bucket, then I want you to know this is still applicable, because unlike the other content out there that is so paint by numbers, the principles that I'm going to be sharing in this video are timeless, which means you can use it for a variety of different scenarios. So in other words, no matter what kind of scenario you're in, and whether this is your first or your fifth time you've had to do an introduction like this, I'm betting that you'll walk away with something valuable and actionable from this video. So let's dive into it. Hey, I want you to be confident in your introduction. Make sure you keep good eye contact. That's super important. Hey, share something really relatable about yourself. Don't forget that first impressions mean everything. So I'm sure you'd agree that this kind of advice is way too common. And if you've ever tried applying it, you'll also know that it's also not at all helpful. In fact, that last one about first impressions is just downright harmful. And let me tell you why. So when you're so focused on getting that first impression down to perfection, it basically drowns out what's most important. Instead of worrying about being natural, now you're concerned about performance. And instead of focusing on connection, it puts your brain in a space where you're worried about perception. And instead of just enjoying the moment, you're now laced with anxiety. Now, I don't know about you, but an inauthentic, stiff, and anxiety-ridden introduction does not sound at all appealing to me. Now, yes, it's a first impression, so please take it seriously. But an imperfect delivery is not going to ruin your reputation and blow your chances at earning the respect of your team. Seriously, it's not. Because honestly, it's just one of the countless conversations that you will be having with your team over time. So release the pressure of creating this picture of perfection. It is just not worth it. But with that being said, I'd be lying if I told you that what you say in your introduction doesn't mean anything, right? Of course it holds weight. For instance, imagine having a new manager stand up in front of the room to introduce themselves, and they say this: "Hi everyone, I'm Alex. As some of you might know, or maybe not, I came from a little place called Google, where I led a team of 40 amazing people in product development. One of the hopes that I have in this position is to take us to the next level in product by bringing some of the processes and structure that I've used for years to help us run like clockwork. I'm really excited to be working with all of you, and my desk is over there, over in section A if you need me. Thanks." Or on the flip side, what if they said something like, "Hi everyone, I'm Maria, and I'm really excited for the opportunity to be part of your team. Over the past week, Nancy has been just catching me up on some of the work that you've been putting in on this product, and I can't wait to learn more about it from you directly." So just a little bit about me. I'm originally from Toronto, born and raised, and before landing here, I had the privilege of leading a product development team at Google, where my team and I were able to pick up on some really, really great strategies that helped us achieve epic results. That being said, I know every team has its own kind of unique way of working, and so I'm so eager to dive right in, as I know there's a lot that we can learn from one another. So in the coming weeks, I look forward to getting to know each of you better and understanding your roles within the team. Like I said, I'm really looking forward to that. So just real quick, here's a preview of what you can expect from me in the upcoming weeks. So did you notice the difference? Well, in the first example, Alex was focused on herself, right? She spent most of her introduction talking about her experience at Google and her processes, not about the team or the product that they were working on. And even though she was smiling, there was a little bit of a dismissive tone that impacted her body language. And again, it was because the focus was on her. right? Whereas in the second approach, Maria was interested in the team, right? There was an acknowledgement of their hard work. And there was also an openness to learning and collaboration right from the start. And my personal favorite, and my students watching they'll know that this was my favorite, but there was clarity that was given up front, right? She said, here's what you can expect from me moving forward, or here's what you can expect from me over the next couple of weeks, right? So she brought clarity to the group. And there was an acknowledgement that while new can be exciting, that it does bring about interruption to their status quo. So she acknowledged that. And there was one more key distinction. So Maria was able to anchor the start of her message from a conversation that she had with Nancy, who in the scenario was her boss. To make this introduction as awesome and as inclusive as possible, it's wise for you to talk to your boss about your introduction. So ahead of time, just ask them, hey, how are you planning to introduce me to the team? You can also get their further insights on what the team has been tirelessly working on, maybe even what they might be interested in hearing from you. And you can talk to your boss about what's currently going on that might actually make that or this introduction or change a little difficult for them to accept. Having this kind of insight or context will help you to craft an intentional message that's forward-focused and positive. Now, at this point, you might be going, well, Mac, none of this matters if I am not a good communicator. What if I screw up the delivery? Well, here's the good news. It's not about you anyways. Yes, you want to say the words in a way that they understand it, but it doesn't have to be delivered to perfection. There's this great quote that I love so much by the late, great Dr. Maya Angelou, and I actually have the sticky on my desk all the time. It's where she says, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they will never forget the way you make them feel. You have a unique opportunity to demonstrate true leadership capacity in this introduction by actually making people feel something. Now, maybe you're like, well, Mac, how do I do this in a way that's genuine? Well, I'm glad you asked. There's two specific things that I want you to consider in making this a genuine introduction. Number one, so what helps a lot is just the basic principle of simply putting yourself in their shoes or headspace. So let's do this together right now, okay? So what I want you to do is close your eyes and think about this. If it were you and you were getting a new manager that you know nothing about, maybe you've heard some whispers about this person, but for the most part, you don't know anything about that person, how would it make you feel? What might you be thinking? Well, for one, you might be a little curious, right? To learn a little bit more about them, maybe even worried about what's going to happen, what they are going to expect from you, how that's going to impact your career and your livelihood. Notice how very little of your thoughts are surrounded the communication itself, but what it means for you. The truth is, most people are focused on themselves. Now, do your words impact how they feel? Yes. That's why tonality and body language is important. But for the most part, they're actively listening to the words behind the words and how it impacts them. So let that be your focus, and your delivery will naturally align. And if you take my advice and you talk to your manager about what you're walking into, then you can speak to that as well directly. Okay, number two. So remember how I said earlier that this introduction is an opportunity to show people that you have follow through? Well, at the end of the day, it's about the actions that you take afterwards that make all the difference. Meaning, the string between what you said and what you do afterwards will make the impact. So yes, give your intro the prep time and energy it deserves, but then stop and switch your focus to how you want them to feel and every action that you will take afterwards. Because it really is a combination of those two things that will define your reputation as a leader. I gotta tell you, the introduction speech is something that people will quickly forget. And speaking of what happens after your introduction, if you're a nervous first-time manager and you wanna make sure that you don't undo all the great work that you did with your introduction, which, by the way, I'm sure you're gonna nail this. I am confident you're gonna do a good job. But if you are nervous about that, then you'll wanna watch this video here next.